So good afternoon and welcome to the UC Davis Center for Neuroscience's NeuroFest, which is our annual Brain Awareness Week event. My name is Kim McAllister and I'm the director of the Center for Neuroscience. And I am so happy to see all of you today. So I want to thank you all for taking the time on your Saturday, your precious Saturday, to share that with us. So last year the center celebrated our 30th anniversary. And as we reflect on our successes over the years, I want to thank all of you for your continued interest, your curiosity, and your support. There is really no greater grand challenge in human health than to understand the brain. And we're motivated by your attendance today and inspired by our donors in the room who are supporting our work. Special thanks to our CNS Director Circle members whose generosity is enabling us to hold NeuroFest each year for the past 9 years to provide a benefit to the community as we learn and celebrate brain science together. If you're interested in learning more about becoming a member of the Center for Neuroscience, please be sure to stop by the information booth and grab a brochure or connect with our colleague, Jennifer Scott, who would be more than happy, she's right here, more than happy to tell you about that. And if somebody could close that back door, that would probably be good. Okay, so I want to tell you just a little bit about the Center for Neuroscience. We are the hub for interdisciplinary neuroscience research and training at UC Davis. We bring together neuroscientists from across multiple disciplines, schools, and colleges to advance discoveries. The center houses 24 core faculty, and we have 93 affiliate faculty, and we train almost 200 postdocs, graduate, and undergraduate students at the center. Every day, our neuroscientists conduct cutting-edge research at all levels of the nervous system, from genes to behavior, and throughout all stages of life. We're really committed to revealing the remarkable complexity of the brain and leveraging those discoveries to promote health and to catalyze new treatments and technologies to improve lives. So we are really excited by this year's NeuroFest theme, Artificial Intelligence, Machine Learning, and the Science of Brain Health. This is a complex topic, as we all are aware, and today our presenters are going to offer insights into the field and share their cutting-edge research using these tools to advance neuroscience, technology, and health. After each presentation, we will have time for a Q&A, and at that time we ask you to raise your hand, and our helpers, our staff, will bring the mic around for you. And please note that we're going to be recording the presentations and also the Q&A. Throughout our afternoon, our neuro activities that I hope many of you were able to participate in includes 12 interactive booths. They're described, if you haven't seen them yet, in the program that you got. They're located in the main hall. They're also in the adjacent conference rooms, and they're available for you to explore before if you need to get up and take a break. And then we're going to have about a 40-minute break in between our scientific talks for you to go back and explore those. So our graduate students really work incredibly hard to provide a fun and educational experience at those booths. It's appropriate for all ages, and we're really grateful to our students. This year, we've also brought back neuro posters. They're in one of the smaller conference rooms, and we hope that you'll visit them to learn about our graduate students' research, which range from how opioid use can change gene activity in the brain, and the genetics and profiles of psychosis, to how early life exposures to environmental toxins can affect behavior, and even how infection during pregnancy can impact mental health outcome in the offspring. So a special thanks to those of you who have volunteered to be NeuroPoster judges. We really need your help, and we're grateful for your time. And finally, we also want to be sure that you check out our Neuro Art Contest that's right outside these doors, and that you vote for your favorite. The winning Neuro Art will be showcased at the Center for Neuroscience's Neuro Art Gallery in our lobby. And if you're interested in a tour to come see the Neuro Art Gallery, please be sure to sign up at the information booth, or again, contact Jennifer Scott, who's waving again. Okay, so it takes a team of dedicated faculty, staff, and students and volunteers to make NeuroFest a success. So at this time, I would like to thank our NeuroFest co-chairs, Drs. Tim, they're pictured here, Drs. Tim Hanks, Rishi Chaudhuri, Will DeBello, and Kostas Zarbalis. Let's also thank our team of graduate and undergraduate student volunteers that are led by our NeuroFest committee members, Becca Wilson, Porter Harris, and Evan Haley. So thank you so much to everybody. And really to the more than 40 graduate students and volunteers that are all mingling outside, we want to thank them for their hard work planning and executing the event. So thanks a lot for that. We definitely cannot do that without them. And a big thanks to our staff that includes Teresa Gear, Kimberley Cummings, Katrina Spridgen, and Jennifer Scott that are pictured here. Again, they manage the whole thing and make sure that this works out really well. So thank you very much for your time and effort. Okay, so now please allow me to introduce our NeuroFest committee co-chair, Dr. Tim Hanks. He's going to share an overview of today's topic. Dr. Hanks is an associate professor of neurology, and his research connects general principles of decision-making to neural mechanisms, paving the way for improved treatments of brain disorders. You are in for a major treat, so please join me in welcoming Dr. Hanks to the stage.
Thanks, Kim. So as Kim said, my name is Tim Hanks. I'm an associate professor of neurology here at UC Davis at the Center for Neuroscience. And I'm also co-chair of today's NeuroFest event on the theme of artificial intelligence, machine learning, and the science of brain health. Now, when we came up with this theme, we knew it was going to be a timely subject, but we didn't know exactly how timely it would be. If you've been following the news, you cannot escape stories on artificial intelligence, or AI, and machine learning. This has been dominating the news at NPR almost nonstop. It's made front page headlines of major newspapers. There's been stories about the implications of AI for societal issues. And of most relevance for today's events, there's stories about the implications of artificial intelligence and machine learning for science and healthcare. So what exactly is artificial intelligence, and what is all the fuss about? Well, in its simplest form, artificial intelligence is the ability to produce intelligent behavior from machines, oftentimes with the help of some relevant set of input. And so I bet when you look at this big empty box here for the machine, many of you are thinking of things that come from movies or literature, but the reality is oftentimes much more simple. And I invite you to consider a much more simple case of a robotic vacuum. Now, this example helps to highlight an important point about artificial intelligence, and that is that the intelligent behavior that comes from this is a range of complexity. It is much easier to build an AI system for a self-driving vacuum, for instance, than it is to build an AI system for a self-driving car. Nonetheless, both of them can be considered artificially intelligent. So I want you to stick with the simple example of the robotic vacuum, and I'm going to explain how artificial intelligence works in its simplest form. The key point for designing an AI system is having different types of output for distinct types of input. And so this example helps to illustrate this really well. If we have this robotic vacuum, it might have a front-facing camera and have this perspective right here. And ideally, it would recognize this as a carpet, and then it would move forward and continue to vacuum. In contrast, it might have a different perspective at a different moment in time. What I'm showing you here, ideally it would recognize this as a wall. An intelligent robotic vacuum behavior in this case might be to change direction. And if this vacuum is really smart, it might even be able to recognize this as a dog and then remain perfectly still so it doesn't become the object of fetch. So the key point I want to illustrate is that a major part of AI is making sense out of complex input. And this is something we'll see throughout today's talks for how we apply these technologies for understanding the science of brain health. So how does artificial intelligence achieve this? This brings me to the second theme of today's NeuroFest event, which is machine learning. What exactly is machine learning? Well, broadly speaking, machine learning is a set of tools that allows us to understand structure from complex input. So in this case, what is the structure that needs to be discovered for this robotic vacuum? It needs to distinguish carpet from wall from dog. But it doesn't just have these inputs right here. It has many other types of input, what we oftentimes call data. So it has to be able to recognize this perspective as carpet, but also these perspectives as carpet. It needs to be able to recognize this perspective as wall, but also these perspectives as wall. This as dog, but also these as all dog. And so this is what the techniques of machine learning can potentially allow us to do. The reason why it's called machine learning is it can be used by machines to learn, to recognize complex patterns from diverse data and then determine what decisions to make based on those patterns. And this brings me to something that will also come up throughout all of today's talks. How do we discover complex patterns from big data, and how can we apply this to understanding the science of brain health? Now, coming back to the thing that I used to introduce the talk at the very beginning, the timeliness of this subject. Why exactly is it so timely? Well, the reason why is because there's been tremendous advances in artificial intelligence and machine learning over the last few decades, years, months, and even weeks. So if we look at some of the major milestones, not surprisingly, some of the most salient milestones are those comparing the performance of artificial intelligence against human capacities. So many of you may remember that in 1997, a computer-based chess-playing system named Deep Blue was able to, for the first time, beat the world champion chess player, Garry Kasparov, in that year. And this was a huge achievement for AI. In 2011, many of you may also remember that a computer question answering system, referred to as Watson, was able to exceed the performance of the best human contestants in the game show Jeopardy, an even bigger milestone. Then in 2016, another computer-based system that played Go, named AlphaGo, was able to beat the best human competitors in the game of Go, which is even more complex than chess. Now, the reason why I bring up this example in particular is because this was made achievable through advances in machine learning in particular. And these same advances have continued to push the envelope for what is achievable in AI in the ensuing years, months, and like I said, even weeks. So if we go to July of last year, you may have come across this DALL-E 2 image generation system. What this system lets you do is give a written description, and it produces an image based on that. So I gave it this description. I said, an impressionistic oil painting of an indoor festival of neuroscience. I hope that sounds familiar. And this is what it produced. So I hope that we can match the energy today of what's conveyed in this image alone. Now, this same technology, even more recently, in November of last year, was used to release this text generation system known as ChatGPT that many of you have heard about. This also takes written text as input, but now produces text as output, almost like a conversation, hence the name. So I gave it this input. I said, write a sonnet about UC Davis NeuroFest. And this is what it produced. In Davis, there's a festival of the brain where neurons fire and synapses connect, a gathering of scientists not in vain to share their research thoughts and intellect. UC Davis NeuroFest, a grand affair where minds unite to learn and to explore, from cutting-edge tech to treatments rare, innovative ideas to cure and restore. That's not me. It produced this was only the beginning of what it produced. It did it on this single prompt with no other context, and it did it in a matter of seconds. So you can really appreciate why this has been making such big headlines recently. So there's a lot that we could talk about with regard to artificial intelligence and machine learning, but we're going to focus on one aspect of it here today, and that's the implications for helping us in our understanding of the science of brain health. And in making that connection, I want to emphasize one point in particular, which is the immense complexity of the human brain. This is a side-on view of a human brain here. You can begin to appreciate its complexity from this convoluted mass of tissue. But if you zoom in further, you can appreciate that complexity to a greater degree. Each human brain consists of more than 80 billion individual neurons. And to put this number in perspective, that's more than 10 times the number of people on Earth. These neurons are organized in highly elaborate and refined neural circuits with many connections between them. So if we zoom in further, we can look at some of these connections. These are referred to as synapses. These are where chemical messages are sent between neurons. there are more than 100 trillion synapses on average in the human brain. So if we carry that same societal analogy forward, that's like each neuron on average having greater than 1,000 neuron friends in constant close communication. So this is an immensely complex system. I would argue the most complex in the known universe. We've made really tremendous progress in understanding how it works, but there's still a huge number of unanswered questions. And so our theme here today is how we can use the tools of artificial intelligence and machine learning to make faster progress in answering those questions. And so I want to leave you off with one final analogy that I hope really gives you a good picture for how these tools can allow us to make sense of complex data. And so this analogy is very similar to a situation that we oftentimes face as neuroscientists, where we have complex data and we're trying to find the structure in that data. Here you have a bunch of irregular shapes and variations of colors. There doesn't seem to be an obvious structure from this particular perspective. What artificial intelligence and machine learning can help us do is find the perspective in these sorts of complex data where this all comes together and makes sense. And so if we just look at this from multiple different perspectives, eventually a coherent picture emerges. And so I want you to keep this example in mind as you listen to today's talks. This is the main idea that permeates all of the talks you will hear. How is it that artificial intelligence and machine learning can help us as scientists learn to find structure in complex data, and what cohesive picture emerges from that perspective?